All right, so we all know that these Blue Jays games don't necessarily mean a ton. But what are some things we can look into this season to help us look forward into 2025?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. I'm Braden Uwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Uwasco, Carter First 2, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Drop a subscription if you're new here. We've gained a lot of new people, a lot of new faces, a lot of new commenters, and it's great. It's great. We love interacting with you guys in that comment section, so make sure you comment as well. And it's been a blast. These last couple weeks have been really good. A lot of Blue Jays information coming out. We still have a bunch to get to, actually. But things always keep popping up, Carter. And we're going to get into that right away. But, I think we got to keep the people updated, Carter. We went out. We had a round of golf today to practice for the tournament. You were dialed. I got to give it to you. You played well today, and we need you to carry that into the weekend. Myself, it was rough out there. I didn't get to the range beforehand. I was shanking balls. My putting looked surprisingly okay. I think it was adequate putting, which I think is what you expect from me or what you need from me. The wedge game was okay. The drives weren't all there. But you know what? I think if I can get in the range, Carter, I think I'll be okay. It was an all right day. I think we built on some things that we've been practicing over the past week.
Yeah, you're not expecting Dalton Varsho to go out there and hit for average. It's one of those things. So if you can go, just play as good defense for you. It's just if you can hit your drives in the fairway, if you can have some good chipping, it's definitely going to help me out. But yeah, we got 3 days until the big day for us. Obviously, we're still watching the Blue Jays baseball, still watching the Jays games in the cart as that was going on. A couple weird things that happened in that game, as we'll get into, and more so in the second segment. But yeah, overall, big weekend for the boys. Big weekend for the Jays. Got the Athletics this weekend. So that's going to be interesting. A team that they should be able to win a series against. It might just be the battle of the bottom of the barrels. But I'm excited for it. But yeah, golf, just end of the summer coming up. Just kind of a sad time of the year. You got football coming up, which is awesome. A huge football guy as well. But the end of the MLB season is coming up. It's going to come probably a lot quicker than we're imagining. And then obviously I got school coming up. We got the end of summer jobs for me, the end of warm weather here in Winnipeg, and something that we don't normally get a lot of. So a lot of things are ending, but a lot of things are starting as well. We'll get into a bunch of off-season stuff, obviously. Probably do a bunch of player recaps, season recaps. Unfortunately, it's going to be very negative coming up from our end, but that's what the Toronto Blue Jays have provided us. But saying that, we do have a lot of game stuff to get into, but we're going to start with this. As we said multiple times in this podcast, 2024, probably going to be a forgotten season, one of those seasons that we're going to hope to forget anyways. But again, there's still about 50 games left to be played. So you don't just want to throw all of those out the window. So for us, what we did is we both picked 2 players. We made sure not to pick the same ones. We're going to get into which players that we're watching intently this season in hopes for 2025, hoping that they can improve on something or just continue to be successful at what they're doing right now. So Braden, if you have anything else to add, I'm going to throw it to you to start off. But if you want to explain it any further, or they'll just kind of pick it up as we're going on. It's really not that hard of a concept, but we'll kind of figure it out as we go.
Yeah, again, these are guys that maybe we're looking to add something to this Blue Jays team, or that can bring another level to their game, and guys that we think can add that extra bit into the 2025 season. And some of them are personal opinions, and you can tell us, maybe give us your top 2 of who you really need to see something out of moving forward to 2025. I think leave a comment, tell us what you guys think. We'll have the debates, we'll have the kind of conversations in the comment sections. And if we find a really compelling argument, maybe we'll bring it up on an episode coming up as well.
Yeah, you could pick a million players for this segment, by the way. Like, you could go returning players as in like Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios. You can go with some rookies. You can go with Joey Lopervito. You can even throw Jake Bloss if you want to do that. Or you can go players that have been on the team this year. You got Ernie Clement, Davis Schneider, maybe some guys that aren't necessarily guys that we were supposed to rely on at the start of the season. You could even throw in Elvis Martinez if you want to. You're not really going to see a lot from him this season, but maybe you want him to be a huge piece in 2025. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Could be a wide array of things. So again, we're obviously not going to get to every single player on this episode because, like I said, could literally have probably 20 players as a part of this segment. But Braden, I'll stop yapping and I'll kind of let you get into your player here.
Yeah, and the first one for me, Carter, a guy that we're huge fans of. I will give an honorable mention going into segment two because I think there's a guy that needs to be touched on, and I think that this segment is sort of perfect for that. But a guy that I've seen good things out of so far this season, and I'll talk a little bit more on that. And of course, it's Ernie Clement. I think Ernie Clement was a bit of a surprise this season. We knew that he was going to be somewhat of a piece for this team, but to what extent was a bit of a mystery. Ernie Clement, of course, drafted by the Cleveland Guardians in the fourth round of the 2017 MLB June Amateur Draft from the University of Virginia. And you know what? He debuted June 13th, 2021. And you know what? A guy that I think, like I talked about, sort of shocked everybody this season. I'll get into his season stats because I think that there's a huge component here. And one thing I want to dial into specifically, and that's the WAR for Ernie Clement. Ernie Clement in 2024 has a 2.2 WAR on the season. And I think for a guy expecting to come in and maybe, get some at bats as, a sort of a fill in and a utility player, I think Ernie Clement has gone above and beyond what our expectations necessarily were of him, us, including me, Carter, maybe Blue Jays media, maybe fans as well. I think Ernie Clement was everything that you hope for out of what a prospect can be. And that's going into another guy I'll get into, and that's Davis Schneider down the road. Um, and sort of a guy that we need to see this continue for. Ernie Clement, if he can keep on this pace, I think he's a guy that easily could slot in at that third base side. He can fill in for shortstop for Bo Bichette when need be. He can play second base. Ernie Clement is sort of a big utility infielder, and that's exactly what he's done this season. With 253 at bats, he's batting a 273 on the season. He's got 6 home runs. He is having a monster year for himself. He's got 32 RBIs with an on-base percentage of 295, a slugging of 415, and an OPS of 710. From a guy you really didn't expect a whole lot of, Ernie Clement has gone above and beyond here. And I think in the start of the season, he gets overshadowed by Davis Schneider, especially coming off last year with all the records that Davis Schneider set. I think Ernie Clement sort of fell by the wayside and didn't get the playing time he necessarily needed to develop as a player. Then he goes on a little bit of a hot streak and he continues his hot pace. And in doing so, he earned himself almost an everyday spot with this struggling team. Now, when I talk about this struggling team, is it to the extent that he will get playing time next season? I don't know that, right? It's going to depend on offseason moves. It's going to depend on if he can continue this moving forward through the offseason. But I think Ernie Clement could be a huge piece if he can continue this. And that's going to be the big question. And for most of these guys, that is going to be the big question is how much can they continue through the rest of 2024 and moving into the preseason of 2025 and the start of the season? Because then there could be moves made. There could be moves made anyway in the sense of offseason acquisitions that maybe push some of these guys out of the lineup. And I think Ernie Clement is towing the line here of being a starter for 2025. But Carter, I'll give you a rebuttal as I feel like I've been talking nonstop about Ernie Clement, but he's a guy that excites me. He's a guy that fans are really getting excited for. I've actually been seeing more and more Ernie Clement jerseys watching the baseball games, which makes me really happy. Him and Davis are two guys that I think have the heart of this team right now, have the heart that have the, that are in the fan base's mind as two guys they love to watch. And so it's just great to see two really down to earth guys. And I can't think of two guys more deserving.
Yeah, Ernie Clement has just been known as just a great guy, great dugout presence, just a very friendly person to begin with. But with Ernie Clement, I'm going to go all the way back to 2023 when the Toronto Blue Jays picked this guy up. So he got DFA'd by the Cleveland Guardians and the Oakland Athletics. Getting DFA'd by the Oakland Athletics usually means your career is probably over. You probably don't have another chance in the MLB. But the Blue Jays take a chance on Ernie Clement, and what he did in 2023 gave me all the hope in the world. Bo Bichette goes down. He has some time to fill in for him, has like 300 average. It's just playing great defense from the shortstop position. Does everything you need from him and more. So that's why going into this season, I had Ernie Clement turning into an everyday player as one of my bold predictions. It sort of worked out. I'm inconclusive, I guess you could say. It is because of injury injuries, but he has done everything and more to earn himself a starting role, especially for this season. Hopefully, he can build on that and go into 2025. You're looking at next year's roster. Second base, I guess there's not really a staple there yet. You could throw Spencer Horwitz over there. You could throw him in at the DH spot. A bunch of things could happen. But third base right now for me is the huge opening, whether they address that in free agency, whether they keep that from within with Ernie Clement, Addison Barger, a bunch of different guys that could overtake this position. Vladdy's been playing there recently, another option there, which is still interesting for me to see. But with Ernie Clement, he's just a contact hitter. He's pretty much like IKF, only this year you could say a little bit worse, I guess. But IKF has been an unbelievable player. But Ernie Clement, I've loved this guy ever since he came to the Toronto Blue Jays. A guy that is so easy to be a fan of, just gets along with everybody. You can tell that he just radiates positivity on the Toronto Blue Jays. So if he ends up being an everyday player for the Blue Jays, ends up being our third baseman going into next season, I'm not going to be upset. Again, there's a ton of other things this Toronto Blue Jays team is going to have to do to be successful. But getting rid of Ernie Clement, even if this guy is just a bench bat, a guy that you can pretty much put anywhere in the infield, to have that guy as an ability to come in and just be effective off the bench is a huge necessity to have. Not everyone has to be an MLB superstar. There's a bunch of different roles these guys have to fulfill. And Ernie Clement has done a very good job at fulfilling his role with the Toronto Blue Jays. But we've talked about Ernie Clement for a while. And I think now the way we're going to, we should have knew this was going to go a little bit long. So I'm going to do my player. We're probably going to head into a break. We're going to do the next two players. And then the third segment is just going to be like a catch-up thing where we do any new Toronto Blue Jays news, a little bit of the game stuff I want to go into. Maybe it'll be a longer episode again. It's just how it is on Locked On Blue Jays. But anyway, I'm going to go into my player here while we still have a little bit of time. And for me, this was, again, very tough debate because I could have picked pretty much any single player on this Toronto Blue Jays team. I could even went with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Want to see him finish out 2024 strong. Going to be an integral piece in 2025, but obviously I didn't go that, I guess, easy. I didn't go that open. Just I decided to dig into the depths of the Toronto Blue Jays a little bit. And I actually went with a starting pitcher, a guy that we've talked about on this podcast, a guy that's had a very up and down year, you can say. And I had to go with Yariel Rodriguez. Signed him to a 5-year deal in this offseason. Just, again, very up and down season. I'll just go over his stat line so far this season. He has a 3.86 ERA and over 44 and a third innings pitched, 47 strikeouts. He's walking a fair amount of guys. That's the one critique with Yariel Rodriguez. Has very good stuff, but his command at times can suffer. But looking at Yariel Rodriguez, going into next season, going into even the rest of this season, you got three pitchers, fairly obvious what they're going to do. You got Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, untouchable. He's going to be on the team next season, not really up for debate. Then you have Alek Manoah, who went down with Tommy John, probably won't be ready for the start of next season. Obviously, you have free agency as well. But right now, you're rolling Yariel Rodriguez, and you're rolling my boy Bowden Francis, another guy I was high on in the offseason. We'll get into that somewhere in this episode. But with Yariel Rodriguez, really kind of came into himself in the month of July, a 3.13 ERA with July. And I said he's been inconsistent because July 1st, he had his best outing probably of the season against the Houston Astros. 6 2/3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 6 Ks, 2 walks, and 83 pitches. And this is something that I wanted to talk about. That's why I had it written in my notes. John Schneider has not let Yariel Rodriguez go over 83 pitches in any start this entire season. If you want this guy to be an effective starter, you want this guy to go deep into ball games, you're going to have to let him get closer to that 90 pitch mark, that 100 pitch mark. And maybe it has to be a gradual stance. You don't want him to throw 83 pitches and then 105 because he's not used to throwing even close to 90, 95 pitches. You want it to be gradual. You want to see what this guy can do his third time throughout the lineup because that's what effective starting pitchers do. You're not really giving him a chance. And when you can see that he has his stuff, I don't know why you're taking him out. You look at Jose Barrios in the playoffs, again, a little bit of a different scenario, obviously, where the Toronto Blue Jays are right now. But you want to let your big dogs eat. You want to see the guys that have shown they can be effective. And you saw that in his last start, 4 2/3 innings, has an opportunity to get the last out of the inning. They pull him out again. Again, you're at this point in the season. Let him eat. Let him see what he can do for your team. Again, but then you're looking at another Yariel Rodriguez start. Last time he faced the Baltimore Orioles, the series before this, 2/3 of an inning. Not great. Threw more balls than strikes, 22 balls, 21 strikes. Just not going to get it done. So far, just looking at Yariel Rodriguez, they are absolutely slugging off of his curveball. He has a slugging percentage of 636 off his curveball. The next closest is slider, which is a 364, and he's just hanging a curveball. It's just flat out simple. When you hang curveballs to major league talent, probably going to get knocked around a little bit here. But right now, from what I've seen from Yariel Rodriguez in year one, especially with a full year off from coming into this season, he has been a more than effective fifth starter, now kind of bumped up to that fourth starter. I think he's still doing a very good job with a 5-pitch mix with his stuff that he has, the mid-90s fastball, the lots of break on the curveball, the sinker, slider, you name it. Just any pitch this guy throws is going to be very effective for this guy. So my biggest critique to Yariel Rodriguez, got to be more consistent. And then it's not even a Yariel Rodriguez critique. It is a John Schneider critique. Let this guy eat. Let him throw 3 times throughout the order. Let him go into these 90, 95, 100 pitches. See what this guy can do and see how effective he can be in longer games, in more games that are hopefully more important to the Toronto Blue Jays team going into next season, because this season is a wash right now. Let your guys show this team, so show the fans what they can do, and let them eat, let them have a good time, let them let us feel something positive about the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I agree. That's sort of Yariel Rodriguez is a very interesting situation. And when we were picking guys before this episode, Yariel Rodriguez was going to be my second choice. Just because he's a very interesting player when it comes down to everything, when it's the contract, when he was supposed to be introduced into the MLB. It wasn't supposed to be this season. They wanted to let him sort of roll in AAA and figure things out. Of course, situations happen where that wasn't an option. They needed him to be at the big league level now. And in doing so, you've stunted his development. And I think he didn't get all of what he needed. But in saying that, Yariel Rodriguez has done a pretty okay job. I think he's done what he needs to do as your would-be fifth starter. He's got a lot of room to work. It's his first year. It's a long contract. He can come into his own within that time, in that contract, and be an effective pitcher. I fully believe that he will do that. It's going to be interesting to see how next season plays out for him, especially with the Alek Manoah injury. I think Bowden Francis would be the guy that would come out in that situation, and Yariel Rodriguez would be that fifth guy. And I think that's what you have to hope for. I think Bowden Francis has showed that he's really good out of the pen as a long reliever, but Yariel Rodriguez is the guy you want as your starting pitcher moving forward. So it's going to be a very interesting sort of debate that we have, and I think conversation around Yariel Rodriguez and how effective he can be moving forward. So a big thing for me, like this, what this segment is supposed to be guys that we need to see more of this year to, excuse me, give us hope and give us a little bit of light going into 2025. And I think Yariel Rodriguez is a big part of that.
He absolutely is. He's going to be, you need starting pitching. You need bullpen arms. Obviously, you watch this season. Pitching has been a major problem. Not as much the starting pitching over recently, actually. The last couple starts have not been good for the starting pitching. But again, they have nothing to pitch for. It's probably a lot different mentally going out there when you have the season on the line still. You're still competing. Whereas right now, you're more so just doing it for yourself, maybe your own stat line more than anything. Obviously, you still want your team to win. But when you're 10 games below 500, pretty much out of the playoff race, you sold your whole team at the deadline pretty much. Tough to be positive out there. But with Yariel Rodriguez, he's going to be a guy that we're going to have to rely on in the future. Obviously, after this, he still has 4 more years. And if this is a guy that is going to end up being a fourth, third, maybe even a second starter, don't know if he necessarily has the stuff to be a top starter in the MLB. But a guy that can be very effective, can eat up innings, and can give you a chance to win in the majority of baseball games. So obviously, we've been going a little bit long here. I think I'm going to start off the next segment because Brain will come to you with an ad here in this little short break. But yeah, could have pretty much brought up anyone on this podcast. Could probably bring up Ross Atkins. He might be the most integral piece to kind of figure out what he's doing in the offseason. If he's still even here, we'll be getting a ton into Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, this front office, obviously later on these episodes, still got a whole season in front of us. So we're going to try to focus on the players more so, I think, right now than anyone else. But saying that, we have a lot more to go into. So we're going to go into a short break here and be coming back to you guys right after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. As you guys know, here on Locked On Blue Jays, we are huge fans of Game Time. This app helps us buy tickets no matter where we go, no matter what the event is. It is so easy to use and it's so user-friendly because it gives you the best deals. If it's their flash deals, their zone deals, their last-minute deals, they all come into play when using Game Time. It's my favorite app because I get to see my seat in the app. It actually shows you exactly your view from the seat, and that's my favorite part of it because when I go to ball games, I like to sit all around the ballpark. I like to sit in different sections. And in going to Minneapolis later or Minnesota later this month, I will be using Game Time to purchase my tickets because we are going to a few different games. So I want to sit all around the ballpark as usual. Again, the all-in pricing, toggle this feature that shows your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. That's a huge one too. I don't want to be getting a surprise total at the end. That's why I love Game Time as well. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, Carter, as we were talking last segment, of course, players that we look forward to in the rest of the season moving into 2025. I'm going to throw it to you because we sort of covered two guys and we are going long as usual. So let's get right back into it, Carter. Who's your second guy?
You only get the in-depth analysis on Locked On Blue Jays. And we got another guy that's unfortunately scared of the dark, doesn't like the night games, is loving the day games. A lot smaller of a sample size. I did bring this up in the third base debate with Ernie Clement. My guy to watch, just based mostly off recency bias, and a guy that's been obviously a touted prospect in the Jays minor league system for a long time, and that is Addison Barger, guy that's been hitting the ball very hard recently, a guy that has a fairly wild swing, but boy, is there power behind the swing. And just going into these day versus night games, in day games, he is hitting 286 with an OBP of 359, a slugging of 543 for an OPS of 902. Definitely going to take that. But in night games, he's hitting 137, OBP of 137 as well, slugging of 196, OPS of 333. So that's about a 670 difference, give or take. Is that right, math? Nope. 570 difference. There you go. That's the math guy on this podcast. But yeah, 570 OPS of a difference. That's what George Springer OPS was the first 2/3 of the season. Not great. You're not going to take that's pretty big margin for a guy. Again, just Toronto Blue Jays need to get better lights. Something's got to go on. Just, I don't know, just try to steal the sun. Maybe we'll go from Despicable Me here. And just instead of the moon, we'll go to the sun. But in all seriousness, going back into Addison Barger, this is a guy who's 24 years old, left-handed bat. I just remember there was a time in Toronto Blue Jays land where we just had 0 left-handed at-bats. But boy, were we raking when the offense was actually just being a good offense. Can't necessarily say that as much now because Vladdy is just literally carrying the offense on his back right now. Back in Addison Barger, I said it's going to be a third base spot open. Whether they address that in free agency, whether they go within the system. It's Ernie Clement. It's Addison Barger. I guess you could throw Elvis Martinez in there. Sort of. More so a second base guy, not really a third base guy. And you actually have to play games to win a job. So probably not going to be him to start the season. But overall, just Addison Barger, insane bat speed. Just unbelievable bat speed, swinging so hard. He had a 105-mile-per-hour double that looked like, honestly, a single. That was line drive into right center field that just kept going and going into the wall. Pretty good sprint speed on this guy, too, as in the 70th percentile for sprint speed. Maybe that's just because he's young, but a guy that is pretty much can do it all in terms of being in the outfield. Obviously, he hasn't had a lot of reps in right and left field, so you want him to get better at tracking baseball, so that's where you want to put him. But the huge thing for Addison Barger, other than his bat, is his fielding. And that is not necessarily the defense on the fielding. It's his arm strength. And then 99th percentile in arm strength. Had one of the fastest throws recorded this season for the Toronto Blue Jays. That's why I don't mind him in left or right field, because this guy is going to be gunning guys out left and right. You can kind of get him to figure out how to field fly balls and attract fly balls. Luckily, you do have one of the best outfielders in all of baseball on your team, so he can probably give him a few pointers in Dalton Varsho. But just going into a little bit of a deep dive over into Addison Barger, he's striking out a ton. This is a very common thing for prospects. They like to swing the bat. They like to just kind of chase pitches. He's striking out at a 30% strikeout rate compared to an abysmal walk rate of 4.4%. Again, not great. But one thing he's doing very well right now is he's hitting the fastball at the major league level. And that's what a lot of people struggle with. You look at Matt Chapman last year, middle fastballs, wasn't hitting them very well. Justin Turner, middle pitches. I think he was 0 for 45 on the Toronto Blue Jays at one point on middle fastballs or middle pitches in general. That's something you got to hit. Again, fastballs. Every pitcher is throwing a fastball. Pretty much every pitcher in the MLB is going to throw a fastball. So you're going to want to take advantage of those pitches when you get them. And Addison Barger has been doing that. 286 off the fastball with a 536 slugging. Hitting the fastball very well, but he's struggling immensely with off-speed and breaking pitches. Just pretty much secondary pitches in general. He's hitting 143 off the slider and 0.067 off of changeup. I mean, when it's a guy with a free swinger, you want him to build up that eye. You want him to pick a better pitch selection to be swinging at. And that just comes with time. That's going to come with reps. And that's why Addison Barger is a huge piece for me right now, because there is spots open for him to make this roster. and they need a left-handed power bat still fairly badly, I would say. Addison Barger would slot into this lineup pretty well if he can figure out the fence a little bit. If he can just have more consistent at-bats where he's not swinging the garden hose out there and picking better pitches to swing at, he's going to be able to do more damage off of pitches in the strike zone. That's why I have Addison Barger as a must-watch for the rest of this season. Hopefully it makes a start or two in 2025.
Yeah, he's a guy that really surprised me this year. I did not know what to think about Addison Barger. I know we had him on sort of our watch list as a guy sort of coming up through the system, and he's really, really shone here and shown whatever, I don't know, shined. I don't know what the right word is.
In here, yeah.
Come on, yeah.
You guys no, probably not, but I mean, the odd person might.
Anyway, Addison Barger has been a very nice surprise. At the end of the day, I don't know what his role is going to be next season. There's a lot of positions that need to be filled, but I feel like some of these positions, like I talked about Ernie Clamp, might be filled by guys getting picked up in the offseason. I think there will be a couple spots available, but not a ton. So we'll have to see what happens with Addison Barger. I'm really excited for what his future looks like, and a guy that I'm very excited to continue to watch into 2024 because, again, he is an electric guy. When he has a big hit, you can see it on his face, and I love guys like that show their emotion and really get into the game and are there to win. And Addison Barger seems like that kind of guy. Carter, just going forward here, I want to get into my fourth guy, a guy that I'm pretty excited about talking about here, just because he's a guy that me and you have chatted about ever since the trade deadline a little bit. I know you're a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. And that is Joey Lopervito, obviously drafted by the Houston Astros in the 7th round of the 2021 MLB amateur draft from Duke University. He will still actually have his rookie status going through 2024. So this season, he'll be a complete rookie. Next year, he will come out of that, obviously. And a guy that I didn't, again, when these trades happen, I don't necessarily know exactly what's a win, what's a loss. I do a little bit of a deep dive. I do looking into these guys. And Joey Lopervito is one of those weird ones, I think, because he came in with a little bit of MLB experience throughout this season. He's not a full-on prospect. He's had games in the MLB. And as the Houston Astros fans sort of, didn't want to let this guy go, I feel like that's a good explanation of why a guy is liked or why a team picks him up. When the other fan base gets mad, I know I say this all the time, it just warms my heart a little bit. Going a little bit into Joey Lopervito's stats, obviously, with the Toronto, I'm going to exclude his Toronto Blue Jays stats for now because it's a pretty small sample size. Let's take a look at what he did with the Houston Astros this season. 38 games, 118 plate appearances. He had 2 home runs, 16 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, batting a .236 with a .299 on-base percentage. He was slugging a .359 and an OPS of .658. Those numbers don't necessarily pop off the page for you, but it's his first year in the MLB. And the guy who was touted pretty low defensively or pretty average defensively, what we've seen out of him for the Toronto Blue Jays this season is looking pretty promising, and a guy that can probably learn a thing or two from a great center fielder in Dalton Varsho. And I think Joey Lopervito will be able to pick up some of those things. And I think already maybe he has. I think, you watch Dalton Varsho, just the little things that he does in the outfield, and I think you could pick up on him pretty quickly. So I think that's what Joey Lopervito is doing. He does hit a lot of ground balls, and that is his thing. I think he hits 33% of all of his contact is ground balls. So he's going to be a guy that might get into those double play situations, which you really hate to see. I know that bugs the holy hell out of me and you, Carter, when Alejandro Kirk does it. So hopefully Joey Lopervito doesn't go through the same thing.
Yeah. Good thing the sprint speed is a lot different between these two players. Alejandro Kirk is like in the 4th percentile, and Joey Lopervito, I believe, is 90th percent. So again, you can't teach speed. But hopefully we don't have another Alejandro Kirk on our hands for speed-wise. That would not be great, especially for a guy that's going to be playing the outfield.
Yeah, exactly. I don't necessarily think it's in the same conversation, but anytime you ground into those double plays or throw ground balls with a runner on first, I mean, you're asking for a double play to happen. It doesn't matter if you're the fastest guy in the world. On a lot of plays, you're going to not be able to beat out those double plays. It's the 91st percentile for him in running speed. In a lot of categories, he isn't technically baseball savant eligible quite yet, but they do have a little bit on him just in his fielding wise, his range, his arm value, and his arm strength. His arm strength isn't the best for an outfield. It's not what you want to see. It's in the 37th percentile. Obviously, you want to see more of that. But again, a guy's first year in the MLB, there's a lot of growing that this guy can do. And I think there's a lot of growing that he will do. So a guy that I'm pretty excited for, again, I think he's one of those guys that I could see maybe slotting in early next season with a starting role in the outfield with Dalton Varsho and George Springer. We'll have to wait and see again. Offseason moves happen, things move around, guys, lose their spots because of that. We'll have to wait and see. I'm pretty excited about a guy like Joey Lopervito. And when talking about this segment, Carter, at players we want to see more of. And obviously, there's not a guy we can see more of right now than Joey Lopervito because he just got here. So a guy that I'm excited to see what he can bring to this team. And I think this will show us where he can, or if he can, slot into this team going forward into 2025.
Yeah, when you're looking at some of the prospects that this team has up, or not even necessarily prospects right now, because some of them have MLB service time. I'm pretty excited about Ernie Clement. I like Spencer Horwitz, obviously. I'm pulling for Horwitz as we are in this podcast. Joey Lopervito is another guy that has shown out a little bit here. You do want him to pick it up a little bit defensively with the arm strength, stuff like that, but that hopefully will come. But he made an unbelievable diving catch in the first game of the Baltimore Orioles series. So for a guy that has unreal speed, he's going to be able to track down fly balls very effectively. And then you're just looking at some other guys. Alejandro Kirk's gone on a little bit of a hot surge here. You hopefully can see more of that from Alejandro Kirk. Davis Schneider will go into eventually. Probably not going to have time on this episode, but he's fallen off a little bit here. Hopefully can find that hot streak again and just start hitting for a little bit more power. Obviously, a Vladdy just raking. Bo Bichette hopefully can return to just like some sort of Bo Bichette form. Even if it's like 80%, he's still going to be way better than your average MLB player. So there is some things to get excited about. Joey Lopervito for me is probably, maybe it's just like, oh, it's the new kid in the high school, or maybe it's like, I don't know, just the new car in town. It's the new shiny thing that we're not used to seeing. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit more excited about Joey Lopervito. But this guy just looks like a stud. Guy that hits for power. I think he had 10 home runs in his first 16 minor league games this season, which is absolutely ridiculous. So if he can bring that power to the Toronto Blue Jays, for a Toronto Blue Jays team that's been struggling to hit home runs, other than Vladimir Guerrero Jr., pretty much this entire season, definitely going to be a welcome sight in the Blue Jay blue. But we do have another game to go into. Joey Lopervito, Aston Barger, the two guys who went into this segment, didn't even play. So I was almost like, why should we even be watching this? Two guys that we're fired up to see, not even playing the game of baseball. But it is what it is. You have some other guys to see. Obviously, Ernie Clement, George Springer leading off, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Hopefully can continue that hot streak and continue his hit streak. I'll just break it right now. He did do that. 19 games. You'll have to see it. So before we do head out into this third segment, Braden, I think you got something that you want to tell the people.
Yeah. So as always, guys, we always thank you guys for, making us your first listen every day. It really does mean a lot when we see the viewership and we see the subscribers go up. We see the comments roll in. We love responding to you guys. What we want to tell you to do is go make Locked On MLB your second listen, because Paul Sullivan, Sully, our guy, he had us on Locked On MLB, and it is a blast of a show. He really does a great job. And I think when you watch one of those episodes, you will fully understand when guys have been doing this a while and understand what podcasting is. Sully does an amazing job, keeps you up to date on all of your MLB information. So I really, really hope that you guys do that. You can go subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast at Locked On MLB. It's a great time, and I really suggest that you guys go take a listen. Even, because we get it, right? We're the Blue Jays hub. We are going to get you guys all the specific Blue Jays information, but there's a lot going on always in Blue Jays land that we don't get to always go into some of the stuff that we'd want to on the MLB side of things. But Sully does a great job over there. So I really, really suggest you guys go do that. If you're just a fan of baseball in general, he throws some cool comments, some questions, some trivia for you. He does a whole bunch of stuff, and it is a blast of a show. In saying that, Carter, we got to take this break. We got a game recap to go over. We got another game to look forward to. And just honestly, just a lot going on. We're going to have to cut this at some point, but we'll be right back after this break.
Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the most reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com.
So, Carter, that was a lot. It was a lot of information on four guys, but sometimes, we really want to dig sort of deep and get talking about some of these players and what we can look forward to. And, sometimes we go long. We get that. We try to, not make these episodes crazy long, but here we are doing it again. And me yapping about keeping it long is making it longer. So we'll move on here.
We got one more thing to add to the segment. Just a quick answer.
Yeah, why not? Might as well.
Honestly, yeah, might as well keep the segments going, right? But out of those four players, obviously you picked two. Maybe I stole a couple from you. But out of those four players, who are you like the most excited for the rest of 2024 and then going into 2025?
Honest to God, the guy I'm most excited for, and I think it's just because of the potential that is there. It's Yariel Rodriguez, right? You got this guy on a contract. You saw something you liked and you brought him over and you sort of speed ran him into the MLB. So he's a guy that I'm really excited to see develop. And I honestly should have picked him number one, but I do love Ernie Clement as well. I love Joey Lopervito and Addison Barger was a great pick by you, but I got to go Yariel Rodriguez.
See, I think I got to go with the shiny new toy in the store, and that's Joey Lopervito. I've been loving what he's been showing us so far. Excited to watch him for the rest of the season. John Schneider plays this guy. I don't care what the matchups are. Play him every single day. I want to turn on the TV, and I want to see Joey Lopervito at bats. I want to see Addison Barger at bats. I want to see Spencer Horwitz, all these guys. Obviously, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., keep that guy in the lineup as well. But other than that, if you want to start like switching stuff around, just keep those four guys. Throw in David Schneider. I want to see him hopefully turn it around for the end of the season. Keep those five guys in the lineup. Other than that, you can do whatever you want. Doesn't really matter to me. But saying that, we got a game to go into. So
yeah, again, we do.
7-3 Baltimore Orioles. Whatever. That's kind of where I'm at. Like this, you're not expecting to win a series against the Baltimore Orioles. What I want to start this with is Jackson Holliday, another bomb off Blue Jays pitcher. This guy, I'm going to start not actually hating this guy because he's a bad person. I'm going to hate him because we have to see this guy so often. He's going to be such a force to be reckoned with in the MLB. Completely wrote this guy off, a 20-year-old kid at the start of the season. Everyone knew he was going to figure it out. You had to have known he was going to figure it out. The top prospect in the MLB. Come on.
Yeah, dude. You know what? Crazy. We talk about, the history books a lot, right? Like for me, that is the pinnacle of success when you can notch your name in the history books. And of course, Jackson Holliday has done that, Carter. He becomes the youngest player in AL history to hit a home run in 3 consecutive games. 20 years old, 247 days. So it's frustrating. It sucks for us, right? That we're on the butt end of this historic moment for Jackson Holliday. But as a kid that had so much hype around him, the first stint he came up, had a bad time, and then was sent back down, came back up, and now has exploded onto the scene. Don't get me wrong, 3 of his 4 home runs are against the Toronto Blue Jays, which I called last episode. It just seems typical, right? As Blue Jays fans, to be the butt of the joke, to be on the opposing side of history, it seems to be the Toronto Blue Jays, and it shows its ugly head again.
Yeah, sorry to the Baltimore Orioles fans, though. Jackson Holliday's first home run was off of Yari Rodriguez. Just doesn't count. Sorry, doesn't count. He's not good. That one doesn't count. So he's got 2 home runs against the Toronto Blue Jays. I'll give you the Bowden one. Whatever. He's going to be good, and he's hitting 8 in this lineup. The Baltimore Orioles are such a disgusting team. They have so many good players. Eloy Jimenez, who they got at the trade deadline, is hitting 7. I think he had a double in this game. It's just insane. There's really there's no laying off of this Baltimore Orioles lineup. For the Toronto Blue Jays, honestly, you get past Vladdy, you're like, okay, we're probably fine here. You look through that Baltimore Orioles lineup, you're like, oh my God, where's it going to end? We're just completely screwed, obviously. So one guy I wanted to get into, a guy that I was very high on at the start of the season, not so high on in the middle of the season. I'm not going to say I'm high on him right now, but Bowden Francis. Bowden Francis is a guy that I've just loved. I really want to see him do well, and he's done pretty well his last 2 starts, but we're going to focus on this one. This start, 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs. Didn't start his day very well. With an Anthony Santander home run and 9-pitch walk, also the Colton Cowser before that. Not great. Not exactly what you want to see, but bounced back very well after that. 7 Ks, 1 walk, gets his ERA down to 5.44. That's cool, whatever. I don't really care about the stats right now. I'm just more worried about the performances. Bowden Francis is one of those guys that you want to be effective. A guy that, again, could have been thrown on this list that we just did this episode. A guy that's not very old, going to have some sort of role on the Toronto Blue Jays next season, even if that is a fill-in role at the start of the season for that 5th rotation spot. Maybe he works in the offseason, works on his stuff, and improves and has a very good spring training, a very good start to the season, and he makes it a difficult decision on this front office to take him out, whether to put him in, to take him down to the minor leagues, trade him, whatever it is. You want Bowden Francis to be good. You want every player on the Toronto Blue Jays to be good. So if they can have good outings right now, build up some confidence for the next season, I'm definitely not going to be one to complain about that.
Yeah, Carter, some guys that I really wanted to get into today, just because there's certain pieces. Davis Schneider, we will focus on. I think it's coming to a point where we might have to. That something has to be said from our end. I know I'm a huge fan. I still love him. His jerseys are right back there, as you guys can see over that shoulder there. He's been not good. He's been not good, to say the absolute least. He's been bad. He's been it's been painful to watch. And I fully believe that he'll figure it out. We'll get more in depth into him in a coming episode because I think he's one guy that I know I want to focus on. Fans love him. I love him. You're iffy on him, but you still like him. A couple other guys. I got to give Eric Swanson a hat tip. His flowers. Since coming back to the major league level, Eric Swanson has been very good. And there's only so much you can say. He's dropping his ERA slowly. I mean, he's only getting 1 inning of work, maybe. You got 2/3 innings today. And a guy I think that going forward into 2025, again, looking at some of these players, he's a guy, again, that I think if he can bounce back, that's a huge component for this team's bullpen. I think it's a great weight and not a sell low moment for this Toronto Blue Jays team moving forward. Yari Rodriguez went 1 inning with a strikeout. I don't care. Yeah, great for him. That's probably his best outing so far. Congrats. Leo Jimenez, 3 for 4 today. Great day from him. Really excited to see what he can bring moving forward as well. And I know I keep saying what they can bring forward because that's where we're at. We got to see what they can do and how much they can keep this going moving throughout the rest of this 2024 season. Other than that, go for it. Sorry.
Off quick. He had a full side double, and I think it was in the top of the 3rd, or maybe somewhere in the 3rd or 4th inning. Really good swing. Loved what I saw from Leo Jimenez. Another guy I wanted to get into, kind of give his flowers while you're giving Jimenez his flowers, is Alejandro Kirk. Another 2-hit day, 2 for 3 with a walk. A guy that's slowly starting to kind of get his bat back beneath him again. You want him to be successful. He's going to be probably the head of this catcher tandem that's going into next season. So whether you like it or not, you're going to probably be seeing a lot of Alejandro Kirk. Definitely nice to see him kind of, again, just having positive at-bats, having just good at-bats, solid at-bats. A guy that you want to see battle, has a good eye. So if he can foul off pitches, definitely going to be very positive for him. And the only other guy, the only thing I really wanted to get into is, again, this doesn't matter for where the Toronto Blue Jays are in the season. This is something I probably would have got a lot more mad at if, again, this game actually mattered. But it's George Springer in the 2nd inning. He's been very good defensively this entire season. I think it was Ryan O'Hearn that hits a single into the right field gap there. Just bounces over George Springer's head. Not really sure what he's doing there. I just wanted to just kind of go over that as a talking point. Just I misplayed it. Looked like he kind of got a bad read, let it bounce in front of him, and then he does one of the things that just makes him look so unathletic. Tries to jump for the ball, gets behind him, turns into an extra base. Again, doesn't really matter, but just wanted to throw that in there. Other than that, not a lot from this game. Wanted to comment on Eric Swanson as well. Since he's been back, 5 innings pitched, obviously not a big sample size, but only 1 earned run given up. That's the thing. Eric Swanson's ERA this year, it's a wash. You don't really have to worry about ERA. And that's why ERA for bullpen arms, especially, a little bit of a misleading stat. You have a couple blow-up starts. You give up, say, 4 runs in 1 inning. That's going to impact your ERA immensely. It's tough to kind of get that back as a relief pitcher. So seeing Eric Swanson just be effective over these last 5 innings of work, definitely nice to see. Going to be an integral part of this bullpen upcoming. But, Braden, you got anything else to add about the game? I do have one more thing to add. I know this episode's been going kind of long, but I've been wanting to talk about it for a very long time. Cavan Biggio, DFA'd from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not necessarily on this podcast. I didn't see a lot of comments about it for us, but a lot of people were very upset about Rogers and Ross Atkins, front office, whatever, DFA'ing Cavan Biggio. How long of a leash did you want to give this guy? He was hitting 200 for the Toronto Blue Jays. Hasn't had consistent success pretty much at all in his Toronto Blue Jays career. And obviously he goes to the Los Angeles Dodgers and does not do a whole lot there either, getting DFA'd. Maybe a team takes a chance on him, but for me, just tough to see for Cavan Biggio, but not necessarily unexpected.
Yeah, very tough. I mean, he's a guy that, right, you put a lot of hope into, and you thought he was part of the future here, but obviously, things don't always work out as you want them to. Guys, again, I know this episode was longer, and we just got a lot to talk about all the time. We get yapping, we get talking. It just is what it is. Of course, we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't even need to search it. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every day as always. Again, thank you guys a ton. It's been a blast. We got some crazy, sort of interesting segments coming up on tomorrow's show. Is tomorrow our last show, Carter, before the weekend?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
you're losing your days already here. Yeah, we're recording this Wednesday, coming out Thursday, and then we got one more for the weekend. We're going to try to get back on the reels and stuff like that. We were kind of just taking a little hiatus for us. We're kind of busy over the trade deadline. We have ball playoffs coming up. Obviously, we have Braden's golf tournament as well, so we're kind of getting dialed in for that. We'll try to come at you with a couple videos over the weekend, whether it's just game recaps, whether it's just kind of us being idiots. I don't know. Whatever you guys want to see, we'll kind of look at the feedback and see what we get. But yeah, the likes, comments, subscriptions lately has been absolutely insane. We appreciate all of you guys that are coming back watching our videos, but we have noticed that about 68% of you guys are not subscribed. So again, if you guys are watching every single video that we do post, every podcast, you are very appreciated, but we would appreciate you even more if you do drop a subscription. It is free, so it helps us out a ton. But Braden, you got anything else to add before we probably just honestly go to bed? It's kind of where I'm at.
No, dude, we got to work still, and it's going to be late again. You know what? It's tough because I love talking baseball so much, but then I look at the time and I'm like, oh, I got to be at work in like 4 hours. Okay, well, it's part of it. And then I get to work and I talk more baseball. So it is what it is. We really appreciate you guys watching, and we love doing this. We're going to continue doing this for hopefully a very long time, because if this goes away, I'm going to be yelling at my wall about the Toronto Blue Jays. So as always, guys, thanks a bunch. Take it easy, and we'll be back tomorrow with a pretty interesting episode. So stay tuned for that.